context set for people who might not be having an understanding of what is EPR and the likes, is that we had the Sustainable Waste Management Act. And of course, it's a build-up of conversations that started from way back in 2017 on the ban of the single-use plastic carrier bag. And so for the EPR, as introduced by the Sustainable Waste Management Act, it is requiring that producers must now, it's now a mandatory requirement for all producers introducing a product into the Kenyan market to be able to comply with EPR, so either individually or collectively. So KEPRO is providing collective compliance schemes to our members by way of focusing on packaging for the different material fractions. So you're looking at paper, plastic, glass, aluminum and metal, as well as the laminates or the composites. Now, with respect to your question, I think the conversation for us and in terms of providing solutions for our members, so sorry for if I may go back, still from a very layman and a very practical way to help you understand this, is that from EPR is a policy approach where James is now required to follow throughout the life cycle of this product, including post-consumption. So once you as a consumer has purchased this product from the shelf, the assumption is that as a producer, I need to follow up throughout the life cycle of this product to understand where it will eventually land and try and reintroduce it into the recycling value chain. So of course, we are doing this by way of trying to implement proven EPR models, and on other fronts also trying to support the ecosystem. And so that prompted the conversation around the Waste Collectors Toolkit. So the intention of the toolkit is feeding from the discussions around the International Labour Organization recommendation 204 around just transition, and of course tying it to the new coined phrase by UNEP around the green transition. So we wanted to see that we are not losing jobs even as we try to move towards formalization of the waste ecosystem. So in Kenya, and for good reasons or bad reasons, is that the waste ecosystem is largely informal. So we saw a need to fill in the gap that was existing, because there's a new regulatory dispensation that requires businesses within the waste ecosystem to be formalized. Because for a PRO, the working of, or rather the operations of a PRO are informed by both material flow and financial flow. So when we are collecting the volumes in terms of introducing it from collection to recycling, there is some capital flow within that chain. And so there needs to be an aspect of traceability. But when the system is informal, the traceability aspect becomes a challenge. Quite a number of them were not even aware of the new regulatory dispensation as far as EPR and the Solid Waste Management Act is concerned. So the toolkit is intended to just bring, it's a first attempt in the country to bring all these information where we are providing the waste collectors, and not necessarily just the waste collectors, but it's a perspective to everyone within the waste value chain on what is the new regulatory dispensation for the informal businesses. What is the requirement? How can you be able to speak or ready get the benefits of the new regulatory dispensation? So in the toolkit, we are also providing processes for formalization of community-based organizations and the different informal waste actors. Yes.
Thanks, James. I'm just going to stop you there. We're going to get back to you a bit later about the Waste Collectors Toolkit, but the toolkit is something that is the first time in Kenya with waste collection. So that's the idea is that the entire ecosystem will benefit from such a guide, and we can create a standard around waste collection in Kenya. So in a nutshell, KEPRO is a result or a product of policy. It was decided by NEMA that we need PROs in Kenya, and we need extended producer responsibility in Kenya. So you can say KEPRO is a product of policy. If we move one step up the value chain, Anthony, and turn to the School of Government, you have a big role in making public servants aware of the importance of waste management. Kenya is a devolved system. Waste management is a devolved function. So eventually, we're looking at a system where this is being pushed out to all the counties. We need MRFs to be set up across Kenya, but we also need the civil servants, the decision makers, to know why is this important, why is this creating decent jobs. So I'll hand it over to you, Anthony, and if you can kind of lead us on to what your role is in this brand new industry and how will you go about training civil servants across Kenya?
Thank you very much, Klaus. And I'll start by stating what Kenya School of Government does, so that based on that, we'll be able to understand where we get into the whole loop. So Kenya School of Government is a government institution which is mandated by law to capacity build public servants in terms of governance issues. But having realized that we are having environmental issues and challenges, and also issues to do with environmental governance, then Kenya School of Government, having been in existence for, okay, it was established in 2012, but it has been in existence from the early 11, which initially it was called Gene School, and it has transitioned through a long period of time, being able to ensure that policymakers and those administrators are able to articulate government policy appropriate. So the school itself does trainings. We develop curriculums for capacity development. We also do research, we do consultancy and policy advisory services for government entities, from mainstream government, county governments, and as far as the circular economy is concerned and waste management, Kenya School of Government has been training a lot of county governments on environmental governance issues, more specifically on what we used to call, or what we call environmental, not only social safeguards, to be able to look at what are some of these producers and the entities, what are they generating and how is this impacting on not only society but environment, but also environmental impact assessments and audits, which I think are mandatory for those who are engaged in development processes, including some of the enterprises like the ones related to waste. So we have been training government officials, and this includes the county governments. We have also been helping them in developing policies. Some county governments have come to us to help us develop not only the environmental policies, but also climate change policies. But in regards to this, we also came up with projects and also development programs and also trainings that ensure that we are able to reach out to not only the government officials, but also communities through our outreach programs in regards to waste. So what we do is we sensitize them. We also build their capacity and skills to be able to undertake audits, that is environmental audits and assessments in the same, but also to be able to integrate this kind of developments into plans, into government plans, government actions, and even policy. So I'll leave it at that for now, but we'll be able to highlight more of which kind of programs we have for that.
Thanks a lot, Anthony. And so now we also heard from a piece of government with a very particular mandate in terms of training civil servants across the country. We now move down the value chain and look at the collection side in terms of waste management. And we have three representatives on stage dealing with the waste side, also the collection side at community level. Lucy, I'm going to start with you with WEMAC. You are a fairly new entity and you focus mainly on Nairobi and environs in terms of waste collection. Could you say a bit about WEMAC and also how you would use such a toolkit in skilling people to work in the waste collection industry?
Good afternoon. My name is Lucy Mwangi, as it has been mentioned. I am the Assistant Secretary of WEMAC, that is Waste Environment Management Association of Kenya. I'm glad to be here. So your question is, how are we going to use the waste toolkit? So WEMAC is a representative of, it's an umbrella body of waste collectors in Nairobi, the ones that collect waste, whether it's big SMEs, individuals, NGOs, CBOs, to name a few. The question is, how are we going to benefit from using the...
And also how you going about skilling and educating people for waste collection?
Okay. Having gone through the waste toolkit, it has some very nice nuggets. One of them is route optimization. In our industry, especially for the ones who use trucks to collect waste from homesteads, hotels, and the like, one of the greatest challenge that we have is route optimization. So we find that most of our members carry waste from one point of Nairobi to another. That means wastage of fuel, a lot of footprints. So from the toolkit, I was able to see there's a section of route optimization, and I think that's one of the ways that we can be assisted. Another way is through the act that was enacted, the Solid Waste Management Act, there's a concern about segregation of waste at source, which goes to the generators of waste. We are mandated as by the law that we need, the waste collectors need to not carry mixed waste in their trucks. And one of our obligations based on the law is to actually sensitize the customers, our clients, on the need to do sorting of waste at source. So I've seen from the toolkit there are ways that they have discussed in terms of data collection, sensitizing the clients, the customers on how to go about that so that it will make our work easier and at least we are complying with the law. And there's also collaboration with different stakeholders who are even here, such that it's not just the waste collectors, but actually we're working with other people from recyclers to the counties, to the pros and the like. In brief.
Thank you very much, Lucy, and don't worry, you'll get more time to elaborate. Now we've looked a bit at Nairobi as an entity. Now we're going to be very granular and look at a very particular neighborhood in Nairobi called Lucky Summer, which is neighboring Dandora, the largest landfill in East Africa. It is not an easy place to work at all, but nevertheless we have Alvin here, who founded a CBO in Lucky Summer with the purpose of doing waste collection while creating job opportunities for youth out there. And Alvin, you represent the Lucky Summer Environmental Waste Management Organization. How did you do this, and how are you incentivizing people to get engaged in such an area within waste management?
Thank you, Klaus. I'm Alvin Ochieng Omondi, currently the director and the founder of Lucky Summer Environmental and Waste Management Organization, which is a community-led organization that basically deals with solid waste management at household level. Currently, we are working on a waste-to-business model that will improve the livelihood of waste pickers, where waste can be segregated at the source and ending up to waste buyback center, where now waste is not a trash, but it's a cash where it can help and improve the community and maybe also try and protect the marine and land pollution. So what I did with like some environmental waste management organization, I identified and mobilized all the waste pickers in like some award and put them in one consortium where now they've even registered a circle where they can save using waste, trying they're saving using waste, trying to be innovative, trying to put the circular economy in the simplest form where waste managers can understand. And from the past, I can say I'm seeing it working, and maybe through just transition and maybe collaborations and strategic partners, I believe we can make it and we can bring a global change. Yeah.
Okay, and you've developed a system where the people that you employ, so to speak, they get immediate reward, immediate payment when they collect a certain amount of kgs of trash and deliver to you, right? That's the immediate incentive. Do you also focus on training? How do you educate them so they know the different types of plastic, which one is more valuable, etc.? Do you perform training in that?
Yeah, our training are basically led, basically practical. We do trainings on, we teach by showing and learn by doing, whereby waste pickers can come with waste, and at the end of the month, through the accumulation of the waste they've gathered together, they can get some incentive, which can be can reflect into their circles, and they can, through the groups, because like some environmental and waste management organization is a consortium of several different groups, of about 11 groups. Now they can be able maybe even to empower themselves at group level. And also we are looking on ways how we can reach to the village, ties the community, because they are the least.
Work is only to remove waste and to plant trees. Nobody ever thought about capacity development for the officers themselves, for the people themselves, because if you're talking about raising awareness, you're building somebody's capacity to be able to work towards this. So there's a big gap that one can only be addressed through policy. And for you to address it through policy, people have to be aware of what is waste, what are the tenets of that value chain, who are the people benefiting or affected by this. When we were having lunch, I made a comment that people only see waste as a challenge, including those who work in the medical facilities, if it creates a medical problem. But until it creates that problem, nothing is done about it. So we need to move from a reactive approach, which is known for Kenya, to a proactive approach when it comes to not only policy, implementation, but also inspiring some of these initiatives that are being done by youth in terms of employment. And the best gateway through this is only policy and also through our political elite. I know people want to shy away from the political elite, but remember, who do they represent? Isn't it? I don't want to say garbage in, garbage out, but they're a true reflection of who you are, isn't it? And waste management is a very emotive issue when it comes to urban elections, for example. Dandora. I remember I was from Kisumu County and we had one called, right next to a place called Nyamasaria. And it carried 90% of the election of the first gubernatorial race in Kisumu, waste management in Kisumu. So until we see it from that perspective, then we need to invest a lot in developing skills, but mostly sensitization so that we are all aware. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Maybe for Lucy and Alvin, I mean, all the collectors you come across in your daily work, I mean, how much are they buying into Taka Nimali that waste is wealth? Do they see a proper income? Do they see this as a decent job?
Let me just backtrack on what you were saying first before I answer your question. On the waste collector sector, we love those problems because now we're able to solve them when you see them as a menace, pun intended. One of the difficult things that we experience as a waste collection company is the value that residents or companies put in waste collection service. They want the waste collectors or the staff to be dressed in proper PPEs. They want compliance for the staff as well. The vehicles should be well maintained. And I remember having a conversation with a property manager, and he stated, when you're making decision in terms of services, waste collection service is at the lowest of the levels. So he said they'll put more decision on security because like security is sensitive. So from what I got from that is that our value is based on price, and the lowest price they can get, that's the one that they'll go to. So in terms of, we are trying to do all these amazing things, but yet some residents, and I say some, not everyone, view the value of waste collection service very lowly, even in terms of pricing. So the other question was, just to recap again.
It's a bit about the collectors. I mean, do they see a decent income in this, and do they see it as a future job that is decent?
Yeah, it is. There's what they get, the recyclables that have value. In terms of decent, I think even the number of staff that we get a very unique type of staff who want to work, especially the field work, the ones who are on the trucks and the like. It's not a job that you can necessarily advertise on a newspaper. It's very specific, and you'll get them in a very specific area. Because maybe for those people, they have either grown up in a place where there was a mini dump site, so they used to take recyclables. So for them, they actually evolve from picking waste to now being part of a company that collects waste, that at least gives them a decent income.
Alvin, any take on that from Lucky Summer? You are employing people that would otherwise be unemployed out there. How do they feel about working in the industry?
First and foremost, it's been difficult transitioning to circular economy because as far as laws and policies are concerned, I believe the local administration are very much, let me say, they're a little bit behind. They're very less informed. They don't know what are the policies they should inform. They should start maybe to enforce. So they need to, we need to start training our local administrators, like the chief, the village elders, so that they can be very fully much aware of what is happening. By the time it comes in implementation, then the process, everyone owns the process. And also at household level, I think also we need to start engaging the landlords when it comes to in terms of polluter must pay principles. And maybe also when it comes as far as segregation is concerned, you know, the landlords are the permanent residents, so they need to start sensitizing their clients as far as household is concerned. And also maybe when it comes to maybe segregation bags, it's very difficult to find them. Now you see now, and when still the waste is still contaminated, where all the waste is still put together, then it becomes a challenge. When it comes now to value addition, when you want to find market. And also we are finding a kind of a bit of challenge when it comes to direct linkages to market. We don't see where the cash is. But yes, the waste is there. But no, we need to be taught where should we take this waste? Who is supposed to buy them? They should come at grassroots level where everyone at least can be aware, and also the waste picker. And I believe by the time all the waste pickers see where the cash is, then less waste will be seen ending up to the landfill and also to the marine. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just going to check in how we're doing on Menzi on that second question we posed. Let's see how the audience they feel. So how can key stakeholders to build and promote skills-related waste management? It's quite widely distributed, but the runner-up, or the first one, is curriculum integration, which I think is perfect for the next round of discussion. Policy alignment comes up second, and joint training programs. Let's look at policy alignment and curriculum, and thanks for responding. Maybe we can prepare the third question, Millicent, for Menzi. Omiti and James, the dream behind the Waste Collectors Toolkit is to create a curriculum that will be nationally adopted down the line, and that can be trained just like you would be trained as a plumber or a carpenter. Can you explain the vision and how you're gonna do this? Maybe you wanna go first, James.
Okay, so you've rightly put it that the initial intention was the development of our curriculum to be entrenched into the mainstream and formal education system. But in the Kenyan system, we also have to appreciate that curriculum development and adoption may take quite a while, and recognizing that we're also coming from a culture that is not cognizant of the value of waste. So it will require a bit of lobbying, and in this case also trying to see if we can leverage on what we are hoping would be an exponential curve to see that jobs are coming from that conversation. That will sort of spook the right actors into a conversation around, can we entrench the principles of circularity, waste management in the main curriculum. But in the interim, and of course this is also our way of trying to make a change, leveraging on the concept of pester power, is that we're also trying to disseminate the same information, albeit in a more condensed format to schools. Basic segregation of waste at source, trying to encourage them on what is their role. So the intention is to also bring up a generation that is cognizant of their role within the waste value chain. So we hope that through such activities there will also be, and of course even at our own individual, or rather at our organizational level as KEPRO, we are looking at lobbying and Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and the likes, to also now let us start having that conversation. We know that it is a process that can take up to 4 years or more, but we are also really keen on seeing if that is a proposition we'd want to take up and have ourselves as a kickstarters of the conversation. Yeah. And
for you, Mitzi, you're a bit of a recipient of the Waste Collectors Toolkit. How have you utilized the toolkit so far, or how do you see the dissemination will go the next couple of years of the toolkit?
Yeah, so on matters policy alignment, I think we have good policies so far in place, several being developed. We have, knowledge products like, the current toolkit, which can be adopted to suit, different scenarios. My take would be the bottom-up approach. How do we, avoid the top-bottom and start the work implementation? How do we come together and, start pushing even without, these policies or regulations being in place? So to me, it's matters implementation, because we now have the anchor law in place. So as we develop the toolkits, as we develop other regulations, as we self-regulate, how do we come then together and start initiatives, piloting, see what works and what doesn't work?
Thank you. There's a big piece in the toolkit about technology. Technology in waste management is evolving very rapidly, and when in near future, hopefully, we'll see the material resource facilities being built around Kenya, what kind of technology do you feel is needed, and what kind of technology are you already working with? It's just an open question, if anybody wants to take a stab at that. Sure.
Okay, so maybe I can go first. I think one of the biggest headaches for us, and recognizing that EPR is still a new concept, is the issue of material traceability. So the EPR law has provided for competition. So that means at some point we'll be having 3 producer responsibility organizations focusing on packaging. So at what point and in what scenarios are we going to ensure that there's no double dipping? So today you declare the same volume to KPRO, then tomorrow the same volume and material fraction you declare to X PRO, Y PRO the following day. So that is one biggest headache we are trying to contend with in terms of can we get a technology solution that will be able to, and sort of trying to brainstorm here is geotag material fractions, sort of, so that we are not having issues of double dipping. Then the other issue, and this is also one of the biggest headache for PROs, is the lack of data. So you remember I mentioned that our sector is largely informal. So the intention is even if we are to establish take-back schemes, we still don't have adequate data around what are the volumes that we are having. Does it make a business case to invest in a particular county, assuming you want to install a material recovery facility? So I think critical for us is data capturing in terms of the volumes that are within the different areas, and then the bit on material traceability as far as this cascading down the APR phase is concerned. Yeah.
Okay. Any other takes? Traceability is a big one for sure, and the data collection, and maybe who will help us? What kind of technologies do we see out there? Does it have to come from Safaricom, big partnerships, or who can help us get there?
I think every other waste value chain stakeholder has a responsibility. We might not have to wait for a third party to give us a solution. Individually as an organization, starting at very granular levels in terms of having our declaration processes being tech-based. So we are not doing anything manual as far as declarations and payment of APR fees is concerned. We've also digitized the waste collectors toolkit. You can interact with it on WhatsApp and the likes. So moving to the other conversation around traceability, we've kickstarted our conversation with S3. It's a whatever organization that develops technological solutions around geographical studies. And we're trying to see if they're able to, at first, do some sort of heat maps on the specific areas as far as volumes and wastes of value is concerned. Then later on we'll be moving at levels of the granular levels of specifying the particular material fractions in each region. So I think it calls upon each one And I believe even for the waste collectors and the waste service providers, I think they're probably also having their own solutions. I've seen a few. There was one that was presented a week or two ago, where you also now having households being able to request for collection of their waste. So I think you'll be seeing each stakeholder initiating their own solutions and conversations from a technology point of view.
Anthony, you want to chip in?
For us as Kenya School of Government, having realized that there's this conversation, a global conversation about there being a lot of funding. Okay, that is the perception that there's a lot of global finances that are geared towards environmental conservation, innovations and things like that. So what we then thought as a school is we came up with a training which we call Green Growth and Circular Economy. Because, for you to be able to actually inspire the political elite to think about how to adopt some of these technologies or environmentally sound strategies, then they have to look at how are we moving from point A and point B. That is an economic growth which is inspired by green initiatives. So out of some of the programs that we have, we ensured that we also came up with products within those programs on green financing, which attempts to link or capacity build our clientele and give them the necessary knowledge. Finances. I know some of the global finances target different technologies. Which platforms are these? How are you able to develop research or grant proposals to be able to ensure that through that you can access some of finances targeted towards some of these technologies as they are. So what lacks is that information. People might have good technological advancements, ideas, but the institutional framework or even policy framework to incubate these ideas, even the finances are still tied up to the limits of whichever organization is intending to look at this. So we are really, for the county, let me talk about county governments because those are majorly our clientele. So we have seen a serious uptake of some of these products by the county government. And a good example is the county government of Isiolo, which actually institutionalized this and came up with what we call an Isiolo Youth Innovation Center, which was supposed to create employment and also to inspire innovations in different areas. So we came up with products that are basic enough to even allow us to transfer this knowledge and skills on how to do proposal writing by youth groups somewhere in Isiolo, and we are hoping that we'll be able to roll this out. But now you see, it's still a bottleneck for us. How then do we really access, given our mandate, access communities down there? So the model we have taken is one, capacity build the regulators, the people within governance, the political elite, so that once you have capacity built them, they are able to transfer this knowledge and skills and get a wider reach. Because it is actually very difficult for us to try and sensitize the whole of Kenya. Maybe it would be easy if we worked with Kara, and I'm grateful for this opportunity because I have seen it towards community-based solutions. And this we will do through a center we call the Center for Environmental Governance and Climate Change by Kenya School of Government. So I don't want to sell that right now, but I'm already looking at opportunities on how then can we help link them with those who are financing this kind of institutions or those who are interested in this kind of work that they are doing, but also so that they are able to know where are these specific finances, who are they targeting, and are they within their reach? So that is one thing we're doing as part of our outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're already selling, but that's great. And I think it's, I mean, to hear that kind of initiative from the government is great. I mean, Lucy, when you hear like Center of Excellence and this, are you buying it? Is this enough? Is it on the right track? How would you, any reflections?
In terms of what Anthony has shared.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think it's fascinating just to hear the content, capacity building, and I'm actually thinking we need to have a meetup on that as well, because we all need capacity building at some point. Some of us have access to customers. I have access to other, more waste collectors who need this information, which is valuable, so that now we're able to package ourselves well. And I love the approach of you saying that you have even simplified the content of how the proposal writing is done, which is a skill set that at times we lack.
Okay. Elvin, you want to chip in?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Close. As far as technology is concerned, I very much appreciate maybe if we have these innovation hubs established at grassroots level, at local institutions where kids can start interacting with these new ideas that are coming on board with the modern technology, where also the waste speakers can at least get to understand how are we able to interact with this new technology that is on board. So I believe that through unprecedented collaborations, it will probably work. Yeah.
Thank you. And Anthony, you opened the ball a bit with funding and financing. If we look at this as an industry, waste management, I mean, James, you have more than 600 members in Kepro, and there's no doubt that we have hundreds of converters, collectors, pelletizing companies around Kenya. This is becoming big business, and Kenya is a net importer of of waste materials, because Kenya wouldn't be able to run these companies without importing waste. And we've seen the same trends in North America, Europe before. So right now, Kenya is the hub in East Africa for waste management, for sustainable waste management. Are you feeling that uptake? Can you see revenue coming in among your members? Are they saying this is a great time, or what are you hearing?
Okay, so a bit of a reality, and maybe if a member is here, they'll probably shoot me. But the bulk, and as an open secret, is that the bulk of our membership is only there for compliance. And so you'll notice that out of the 700, maybe only 70% are compliant. The other 30 would be a struggle until they hear NEMA giving improvement notices, is when you'll see them rushing in to be able to. So in terms of the uptake, we'd say only the multinationals are appreciative of the role. Majority of the local entities are doing it from a compliance point of view. And we also should be careful not to victimize them, recognizing that based on our own experiences and working with the different companies, is that there's also the challenge of awareness. So EPR is new. In Africa, I think we are the second country trying to adopt the concept of EPR. The regulations are not gazetted, so literally even the interpretation of the law is at everyone's whims. So it's a whole process that will take time for them to appreciate where this is going. The mandate or expectations of the PROs have also been extrapolated to the extent that you'd imagine that our budgets are billions of dollars. So the reality is, yes, there's a bit of uptake, but majority still for the benefit or for the purposes of compliance, but not from a sincere role of being on the right side of history. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think, Umichi, you want to chip in on the compliance part, perhaps?
Yeah, but then a bit on use of technology, to support the implementation of the Act. I think it's high time we think through how we can, use technology to help us in monitoring, reporting, on matters waste management, so that residents are pushed to be accountable, but then also duty bearers. I'll just give an example. Currently, what is being used to report on waste management issues is social media. So you will see an activist will post that there is illegal dump somewhere, then the government of the day will rush to try and clear the mess. Why can't we then develop a system that can help us with reporting these issues, can help us monitor these issues? I think when it comes to waste management, both I think in high and low income, high and middle income levels, the waste management, service delivery or waste management systems are working. But then you come to low income levels, it's not working. You come to areas where municipal is in charge, it is not working. How can we then use technology to connect these neighborhoods where things are working and things are not working? What is it that they are doing? How can we then use technology to help us on matters access to environmental justice? Because you may realize that waste collectors will collect waste from the high-end income areas, waste service providers, then they come and dump them in the low-income areas, illegal dumps. How can we then use technology to track the movement of waste from, where it's collected up to where it should be, disposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. And I think also what you're saying is that the technology is certainly out there. It's just not been adapted to this industry. So this is also a call for proposal for companies in the room with the right skills and IT savvy to chip in, because this doesn't require new technology. We can use existing technology to do this. We're just going to check in on Menti, what the feeling is in the room. Have people responded? Okay. So we have a third question for you in the room about, in your opinion, what are the main barriers hindering the acquisition of necessary competencies and skills for sustainable waste management? So what are the main barriers? Can we see the results? We had options: access to training, willingness to invest, lack of awareness, lack of financial incentives. Okay, those are the total responses. Okay. So it seems, does anyone care to share? It seems lack of awareness was the highest scoring category. Who put lack of awareness? Anybody cares to comment from the room? There must have been somebody who used their phone to provide this response. Don't hide in the back. No? Okay. Did anyone put in access to training as the main barrier? Who put in this response? It's not dangerous. Is it over here? Please speak up if you put in. Yes, you should.
I didn't write lack of awareness, but I totally agree with it. Sorry, a little bit about what I do. My name's Amran. I'm in the biogas space. I own a startup. I'm the founder of a startup, and we create and manufacture biodigesters. So by default, I find myself in waste management. I do want to say that lack of awareness is probably one of the hindrances, I guess, in sustainable waste management. And that has a lot to do with, I believe one of the panelists earlier was speaking about behavior around waste and understanding that sometimes what we consider as waste can have multiple uses. So yeah, I think it's really, I'm based in Nairobi, and I think we have 3,000 tons of waste that's produced daily. 60% of that is organic. And it's really just understanding what other uses that we can make from this waste that just would otherwise be in our landfills. So I would say we need to know better to do better. And a lot of the time that doesn't happen. So that's why I would say lack of awareness is probably one of the biggest hindrances.
Anybody else wants to chip in? Thank you. Yep, the back.
Thank you so much. I'm Asusa Josephat from Darren Hart Foundation. This is a charity organization, and also we are environmentally conscious. So mine, beside the lack of awareness, you see we are in Africa, and this is our behavior. We don't give a damn about dust because maybe we are not aware. So we are going to train these people. Again, they won't have the motivation to take responsibilities. That is where now we have the financial incentives. And you've heard from the previous conversations, even with the Giuliani, where they pay the people so that they can call them to collect the waste. So we need a system that will really work, and I can see most of these points are valid, because there is a time I even asked if we can get the police enforcement unit that will deal with waste, because in the projects that we've run, you will like clear somewhere, then in a month's time you will find again the dump site. What if we can have an enforcement unit within the police, whereby the culprit will be brought to book and they take responsibilities? Thank you.
More enforcement. I know Nema, they're not afraid of enforcement. Was it last week? There was 30 companies that were fined because their products were found in Nairobi rivers. So if you're looking for enforcement, I think Nema is there to assist. But maybe you're talking about even more strict enforcement. Okay? You had a comment? Yes, the lady black and white.
Good afternoon. My name is Susanna Mainge from the Kwale Recycling Center. We're a material recovery facility based in the South Coast. And I would say that one of the biggest challenges is the lack of the actual service. Like, we're talking about segregation at source. Are we giving the bins to the people? You go down the street, are there bins on the road? You know, we talk about our cities being dirty. Where are people supposed to take the trash? Some of the challenges we have in the coast is that, yes, and I appreciate that as we talk about Africans and our challenges, but Africans were very clean. We like a clean place. Even if it's a dusty area, we will sweep, we will pour our water, we will take the trash to one corner. But where do they take the trash to? So most people will burn it. Instead, if we can come up and give them the bins and encourage them, I'm giving you 3 bins and or 3 lines, and this is what it's for. I think they know what to do, but how to do it is the next step. And that's where we come in to enable that environment.
Thanks for that. And that's perfect for the next question we have on Menti. So what are the specific skills you feel are needed to support Kenya's transition to sustainable waste management? Because now we're getting very nitty-gritty about what is it people need to know. So grab your phones, let's do a lightning round and see how you respond to this question.
Quick comment.
Yes, please.
My name is Leah. I work for Nairobi County Government, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation. For a long time, conversations around waste and the responsibility around it has been relegated to the county government itself. It's either you've not done or there's just a lot of, but I'm happy to hear structured conversations on how more and more people can come into the value chain and help us, because it has been an us problem for a long time. And my response is that there has been just a lack of awareness. A lack of awareness, especially by key players. We always tend to think that waste is someone else's problem, where you're probably the first one who should have a responsibility to segregate your waste at the source, and therefore the value chain begins from you. So I'm happy to see everybody.
And good to hear from the county government, full support.
Good afternoon, Mohammed Faraj from the Dutch Embassy. I think also something that's not missing, but maybe look into strategic partnerships. I think it's very important, the link between the county government the government and the key stakeholders in this industry in terms of platforms given. Then that will bring about a strategic kind of focus in terms of bringing awareness and others. I take in one example. I'm from Coast, so when the sitting governor came in, one of the biggest challenges we had in Mombasa was waste management, and that was one of the first things that he took on. Basically, like my colleague, what she said there was that the governor looked for places because the citizens didn't know where to put in the waste. So it's kind of being enforced somehow and then put in strategic places where the waste management can be kind of disposed of. Yeah.
Just to comment on that, I think now we've heard two comments from the coast, from Kuala and was it Mombasa? That is also for the coast where there's a huge focus on the blue economy and having sustainable tourism, etc. This is a huge focus, and that's where politicians easily will see we need investment, we need partnerships, for a good reason. But it's also something that we typically see in the coast right now. So blue economy seems to be the new buzz in Kenya, and there's a lot of money and investment going in that direction. Let's just turn to the response from the audience. So we ask you which specific skills and competencies we need in Kenya at this point. So we have quite a varied set of responses. We have financial modeling, awareness and deep sensitization of waste, separation and management, preparation of investment-ready bankable projects. That's to you, I think. Waste segregation skills, segregation again. So definitely, I think there's a big trend around segregation at source that came up here, and that part is captured in the waste collectors toolkit. So James and Umiti, I think you have a big task in disseminating the toolkit because that is what people are still pointing to. Anyone from the panel care to comment on what about this financial modeling? What kind of skill, and are we talking about the finance sector to get more involved in this space? Or do you have some experience maybe from the School of Government? Or any, or Lucy for that matter? Feel free.
I'm not a finance person, that I can tell you for free. But I think what I can talk about is to be able to address some of the skills gaps that are being talked about there. We need more or less a collaborative approach towards this. And I think maybe I can talk about what we do as a school. Of course, we have people who deal with finance issues. And we can always think about collaborative products that bring all these skill sets together, and through maybe experiential learning. Because even if you talk about financial modeling, this would only work for those who are elite within this business. So those you'd look at people who are more or less corporate, isn't it? But is that where we want to get our businesses or enterprises to? Because if you look at the way the toolkit is designed and who it seeks to help or address the issues, are more or less, let me say, slightly the low income earners, or there's a segment of people within that value chain, not really the corporate. So, well, if there are ways of simplifying this, then we can always come up with a curricula and have different persons within this space develop and tailor-make products that are then intended for those beneficiaries that are actually identified within the toolkit. So maybe it could be for the counties. I know it could be for some CSOs who are more elite in terms of this. Yeah, but it's something that we really need to look at. Maybe I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, it can also come from the audience. We are coming to final remarks soon, so we're going to flip it around a bit, and rather than having them give closing remarks, we're going to offer it up to you. Are there any specific questions you would like to ask of any of our distinguished panelists now that we have the whole value chain on the floor?
Maybe before, if you allow me, just to state, I think quite recently the country is moving towards addressing social impacts, risks and impacts. So if you look at many development banks or even financiers who would be able to look at some of this kind of investments, a good example is now there is a program called FLOCA, which is basically financing locally led climate action, for example. You could also come up with such a program, which is a national one, which could be geared towards financing locally led waste management action or something like that, isn't it? And then this would be a kitty that would help draw finances and disseminate to be able to address the different interest areas within this space. So what I was saying about social impact assessment is that very soon we might have a policy that talks about waste sector, waste management sector. This is a sector that is synonymous, just like any other, for a lot of social risks, be they health, be they GBV, isn't it? Be they issues of exclusion. Because you remember when she was talking about not everybody would, you'd not really advertise some of those jobs. But imagine people working there, how then are you able to ensure that society accepts them as an actual formal labor force, isn't it? Because, I mean, they're also provided for by our labor laws, being employees, as long as there is exchange of payment between the two, then some of these groups then should also find themselves in a more formal setup in terms of how they are offering their services, and also be able to be protected from some of the risks associated with this kind of thing. So for me, well, those are areas that we can also look at as gaps. One of them being people need skill sets in occupational health and safety. People also need skill sets in audits, assessments and audits, impact assessments and audits. Also, for the micro enterprises, they also need skill sets related to cleaner production. And of course, for some of our government employees or like the planning sector within the country, we also look at skill sets related to what we call industrial ecology, whereby somebody's waste is actually not a byproduct. Somebody's waste or a byproduct is actually a resource for another organization in a more formalized and organized setup. So those, and also lastly for me, includes proposal writing for some of these SMEs. So if there is anybody who's willing to take up that for them in terms of financing, I know it's not expensive. It's not expensive. I mean, to train people on proposal writing and look at the intended end goal for some of this, and that will help also develop some of the skill sets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony, and also for telling us that there are a lot of new job categories in this field, because what you're talking about is also environmental, social, and governance investment. It can be auditors, financiers, data people that need to get involved. What about to the CBO representatives, Lucy and Alvin and Umiti, for segregation at source came up from the audience as where we need to create the most skills. Any closing remarks to that from any of you?
Thank you, Close. To my parting shot, I would like to say maybe when it comes to segregation at the source, we need to involve all the landlords and all the stakeholders on board. They should come on board, able to show us the way and the direction. And also when it comes to segregation, for the CBOs to get fully involved in segregation and maybe seeing the dignity in waste, they need to see the market in it, and they need to see the cash in it, because at the end of the day, they need something to put in the pocket. And also when it comes to law enforcement, we also need to capacity build the local administrators, I said before, because most of them, they're very less informed. when it comes to maybe doing public participation and sensitizing the community. They only focus on other issues, but they're not into waste management because maybe they are less informed, they're even not aware. But when it, and also to the waste pickers, let me not call them the waste pickers, let me not call them waste pickers, let me call them waste managers. Yeah, they need to be trained as far as the level of management is concerned, when it comes to financial management, leadership, when it comes to accountability. Yeah, when it comes to data management, they need all those resources, and they must, and also we need strategic partners at the grassroots level, where at least they are able to like complete their mission as far as the organization mission and goals is concerned. So I would love to say maybe we need a unprecedented collaboration from all the stakeholders, from the corporates to the consumer, and they should all be involved in this process, and I believe everything will work. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy?
Yeah. In terms of waste awareness and waste segregation at source, I have had experience, and I believe it's not a one-time journey. We just don't do waste awareness once, and we expect our clients or the landlords, the tenants, to actually segregate waste instantly or perfectly consistently. I think it's a continuous process. Even as KEPRO, the waste toolkit, we need to keep at it. Once we do training to the residents, we need to go back to the ground and see, was it effective? So it's a journey, it's a process, and we need to continue doing continuous improvement on the same.
Thank you. I think we one last comment from Omiti, maybe, and then we wrap it up.
Yeah, my last comment is on, the question I would put to the audience is that as we program, or to the panelists, is knowledge, awareness, and practice, or is it an issue of, we don't have infrastructure in place, and which one comes first? Then secondly is about, I still am of the opinion that there's some level of segregation in our neighborhoods. I just gave example that there are take-back schemes, quite local, but then working. I've indicated that I may be having an old phone. I may be having such a time I get someone to. So our stores, if you go back at home, our stores are full of, if it's not electronic waste, if it's not, construction waste in excess, you did tiling, but then you now have 5 boxes or 6 boxes left. If I'm buying newspapers, I'll not, throw them away, but then wait until someone can. So there's some level of segregation going on. How do we build on this? Document these processes. There is also, models. I would give example of, organized estates like Nyayo Estate doing some things. Why is it working, and in some places it's not working? So the last bit is how the real issue is, how do we connect the households? How do we connect the residents with collectors, with other service providers, with those who are in all this value chain, and real time for feedback? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are out of time. Thank you so much to the audience for engaging, and thank you to this great panel. A warm hand. We have one last session, which is a recap session, but I believe, Cam, that we're doing 5 minutes break, or how do you want it, Innocent? Do we give people a break? Maybe 5 minutes, huh? Do people need to? Thanks again to the panel.
So what we can do for those who need a break, I think you can take the break. Maybe you want to stretch a bit, adjust your tie or do something. And then we should be able to start in around 3 or so minutes.
manufacturers. And we had a panel discussion, an opening session that was focusing on accelerating circular economy through the local and global partnerships and policy initiatives. And this had the PS, State Department for Environment and Climate Change. We had the Danish Minister for Environment. We also had the Vice Minister, Ministry of Infrastructure and Water. And we had Dr. John Wandaka, the Vice Chair of KEPSA Environment, Water and Natural Resources Sector Board. After that, we had a panel discussion on circular business solutions, and later on had this session that we've had on competency and skills and support and skills to support Kenya's transition to circular economy. And this has had the representatives that we've had on stage right now. So my task this evening is simple, which is to take us through what we've seen today and just what discussions have been in the room, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. I believe you've been able to follow through most of the conversations, but this is just to summarize for us what we've been discussing since morning. So in terms of statistics, I think we've received quite interesting statistics since morning, and some of them were shocking. Some of them were things that make us think again about ourselves. And we started with realizing that humans spend a lot of time and a lot of time, yes, acquiring skills to extract things from nature. But in effect, or as a result of that, we've had biodiversity laws and a lot of impact that we're having on the environment. But what was shocking was that we said 99 kgs Kenyans, or rather on a typical day, a typical citizen wastes up to 99 kgs of food. And that's like 0.5 kgs of waste that is generated from our houses daily. And we realized that if we are to go at the rate of consumption, not just of food, but of everything in the planet, we will need 3 times the size of the planet that we have. But the reality is we only have one planet, and it is upon us to take good care of the environment and the planet that we have. So as we continued, we had a bit on policies, and from the discussions, what came out from around policy, we say that, of course, regulations are not just to hold manufacturers accountable, but they are also a call to government to play its part. So it's a two-way street that both the private sector and the public sector needs to be actively involved. Of course, it was brought to our attention, as many would already know, that the MCA 99 is currently under review, and this will have up to 12 regulations. And each of us is invited to participate in the formulation of these laws, so that the views that we're expressing here today will be featured in some of these respective regulation. Of course, the regulations have to be clear, and for them to be clear, they need the input from each one of us as the different stakeholders. But from all this discussion, are there any opportunities that exist, whether it's for the private sector or the public sector? And we said what came out from the discussions. We said the public-private partnerships are needed, and there is need for action at all levels, whether it's at public sector, at private sector. Each of us needs to play our part, and there is opportunity for a lot of collaboration to happen. We also said the smart use of resources is not just for the planet, but it's also for businesses. And I think from the morning, from the panel discussion in the morning, we got examples of how that has been applied to various industries. We also said when it comes to the circular economy transition, it's not just the high level and high big ideas that we need. It's the simple things, and we emphasized on the need to follow the hierarchy of refusing, reusing, before we can even move to recycle. By refusing, it's the simple things that we do. It's saying no to not using the things that you don't truly need. We also had the example from on designing, which again presents on the opportunities. We also said there's a lot of opportunity to use the data that is collected as we manage waste. There's a lot of opportunity to use the data and get insights from from that data, and that SMEs should infuse the circularity in their models. So there's opportunity for SMEs to infuse circularity in their models right at the startup stage. We also had realized that there is we were saying out of the 30 million young people, only 4 million are in formal jobs or can be accounted for on what they do on a day-to-day. But in that case, then circular economy provides the much needed solution in terms of creating more job opportunities for not only the youth, but also especially for, we said as a statistic that over 840,000 are churned from our high schools every year. But where are these people ending up? And that's why there is need to continue these, creating these opportunities through the circular economy. So we also, of course, the opportunities also have their challenges to adopt them. And some in the last discussion, we've had very good discussion around how technology can be leveraged at different levels to provide solutions, the much needed solution for the country. And that is, if you can go just to the previous slide, the opportunities around waste management, and especially in terms of monitoring and reporting. And it was interesting to hear that now mostly the waste reporting is being done a lot through social media, but a lot needs to be done to be able to accurately monitor and report on what is truly being done around waste, and also digitization of all the systems, as it were. So in terms of challenges, of some of the case examples, we said circular economy presents a lot of opportunities around innovations, and most of the SMEs that in the earlier discussions, we were saying there's a lot of innovation happening. And some of the examples we got from the forum in the morning was how hyacinth is being converted to biofuel, which is later being sold through ATMs. We had the examples of how the black soldier flies are being used to make fertilizers. We had an example of green nettle being used to make fabric. And we had the example from biofoods where in terms of eco-design, using clear PET bottles so that they are better recyclable. So from that, we of course have challenges. Much as we are saying there's a lot of opportunity in circular economy, there are also challenges that exist. If we look at the challenges that exist, which the good thing is for every challenge, the panelists and the different discussants also gave us some very good recommendations that we can follow through to ensure that we don't stop as just saying we have problems, we have more problems, but also we had very tangible solutions that came from the different discussions. And some of the challenges that arose was awareness. There's a big gap around awareness, and all the panelists agreed that in the first panel, in the second panel, this has come out very strongly. We also have seen, we are telling people, do this, do that, but is there infrastructure for that? So moving from telling people what to do to how to do it and providing the resources that they need for them to do that. We are seeing about a little bit of apathy around waste, where it seems like every other person's problem and not, so everyone could easily say, no, that's not my problem. Or like we used to say in primary school, on complexity, it came out that sometimes sustainability reporting, circular economy can be a bit complex, because we were saying, for example, in the past, if you go to up country, when they use this bottle, tomorrow you'll find it with paraffin. that is circular economy. They may not give it the big word that it is circular economy, but that is actually circular economy. So sometimes we might have run the risk of complicating it to a point that people don't realize that you're already doing circular economy, but there's need to just simplify it a bit. And also for SMEs, it came out strongly that in terms of financing, some lack the required financing to be able to take up or implement some of these solutions that they have. So in terms of recommendation, I've mentioned that the different panelists and the different discussants were so open to share some of the recommendation and insights that they have gotten from their experience. And some of it that came across was that sustainability reporting does not need to be aligned to the frameworks. The frameworks are there and they are good, but there was a lot of emphasis that we should also just do the actions first. Don't focus too much on aligning to reporting, but do the small actions first. And even where reporting is voluntary, you can take it upon yourself as an organization to be doing the reporting in your own format, then later on try and align it to the global standards on reporting. But what is more important is not the reporting, but the action. So that came out quite strongly as a recommendation. And also nowadays it's a trend that we are requiring suppliers, we request the people that we interact, the different stakeholders of companies, we are requiring them to align to the sustainability requirements of your own organization. And it came out as a recommendation in the different panels that we need to simplify and explain to them those requirements. So for behavior change, it was recommended that we need to start, even in our communication, when communicating around circular economy, care about what the stakeholders care about. Do not be worlds apart. So if the people care a lot more about health, then show the health benefits to them so that they are more likely to embrace circular economy. Then, of course, coming up with business models that encourage technology as a service. I think for this, we had a good example where we were saying, for SMEs are saying they're struggling to get equipment to manufacture some of the things. If there are bigger firms that can lease out some parts of their production line for SMEs to use, then it can also be an additional revenue stream for those SMEs. So this one came from this last forum that we've had on competence, and this is tailor-making curriculums to build capacity at all levels, whether it's for private sector or for the public sector. So other recommendations that came, of course, in promoting, again, behavior change, we need to, again, simplify the PROs. I know it's a big discussion right now, and many are coming, they're still being formed, but there was a strong recommendation that how do we involve everybody so that it doesn't come out as a club, but as as organizations that really help and involve every stakeholder, as it were. So SMEs, there was a point raised about SMEs having the fear of how secure are the innovations that they are coming up with. And it was recommended that once you come up with these innovations as an SME, please go ahead and patent them so that they are secure. And lastly, we had about formalizing upcycling business models. I think it was noted that in this whole circular economy discussion, well, we know a lot about recycling, reusing, and the many R's that come with circular economy. Upcycling seemed to be a bit silent around that, but there's opportunity to formalize those models. So that is day one. I hope for those that might have missed a session or two, you are able to pick up some of the main recommendations that came. But tomorrow we are we'll have a breakout session at some point. So I'll just take you through tomorrow's program so that even as you go to rest tonight, you can come up with questions or areas of discussion around these areas so that we are able to have a great discussion tomorrow. So of course, we'll start with the recap, welcoming remarks, which will be a recap of today, but the more focus is not what I've done, but the greater focus will be on the business opportunity perspectives from today's discussions. Then we'll have B2B tracks, thematic B2B tracks, and group sessions that will be based on sector interests. One of it will be around financing strategies for SMEs, and we'll have a second one on agriculture. So once after we've had the plenary session tomorrow, we'll give you the opportunity to choose which discussion you are more interested in, and you'll have the chance to move to that and have an in-depth discussion around that. And then, of course, after we've done the breakout room, we'll come back together to this room and have a plenary session. And later on, you have a chance to tour the booths in case there are booths that you've not toured. And in the afternoon from 2 p.m., we'll have a pitching session. Please do not miss this session. It's a great session for you to hear what are the solutions that we have. We have 10 brilliant companies that have lined up great pitches for you to listen to, and we really encourage that you stick to the end. And of course, after that, we'll have together with the pitching session, we'll have B2B meetings just to give you an opportunity to be able to have those discussions and form partnerships and networks to be able to advance. We do not want this conversation to end here. Would like later in the year, as we follow up with you, you can say, this is what I was able to come out with from the Loop Forum. So after that, we'll have a networking forum, and just to conclude the day on a high gear. So what is the conclusion of the matter? Then we can disperse. So from the whole discussion we've had today, we have agreed that the pathway to sustainable future is not easy, and it will need resilience and belief in the ability to drive change. And that change starts with each one of us that is seated in this room. And this was a quote we got from one of the panelists, from Pete Saga, and he says, if it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composed, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. I think it was a great quote that we need to think about. And of course, from the opening forum, we were all asked to really purpose to be in good standing in matters climate action. So in short, what I'm saying, let us be kind to the environment, and let us at individual levels be the agents of change that we'd like to see around the world. So thank you so much for your attention. We have really enjoyed the day. I think you've had a great audience. If you've not passed through the booth, they'll still be open up to 6 p.m. You can pass by there, or tomorrow you'll still have a chance to go through the booths. So with those very many or few remarks, depending on you, please have a good evening, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow early in the morning so that you don't miss breakfast. Thank you. I think with that, we can leave at our own pleasure and pass through the booths.